OK, let's get more on that for you. Joining us live, Patricia MacBride. She's a political analyst and formerly a victims commissioner who knew Mr McGuinness well. She joins us on Skype from London, Derry. How will you remember him?
Good morning. Well, first of all, I want to express my sympathy and that of the entire community to Martin's wife, Bernie, and to his children and to his brothers and sisters. It's a huge personal loss for them as well as to the community here in Derry and throughout Ireland. How will I remember Martin McGuinness? I'll remember him as the person who really embodied the expression that politics is the art of the possible. Martin took huge risks for peace. He brought people to the negotiating table that would not have been there but for his courage, but for the support and the direction that he gave, and for the reassurances that he was able to give that he was acting in the best interests of his community and of his country. And I think he's a huge loss to the peace process, and I'm sure that his influence will continue throughout the current phase of the talks process that we're going through at the moment in order to try and re-establish the Assembly at Stormont.
What was it about him as a politician that allowed him to kind of inculcate this atmosphere of cross-community support? I mean, when he first got his job in the Assembly at Stormont, he was Education Minister, and yet this was a man who famously failed the 11+, and yet he was able to open up the education to people who ordinarily perhaps would not have benefited in that way.
I think that goes back to the character of the man himself. He was someone who saw that anything was possible given the right set of circumstances. If we could create a situation where there was trust and mutual respect in our community, which had been absent for over 70 years of a single-party state in the north of Ireland. So that opportunity to say, well, look, no, we're going to do things differently. We saw a huge sea change in how government operated once the Assembly was established in 2008, when Martin McGuinness and Ian Paisley took up the positions of First and Deputy First Minister. And it was the essence of that partnership and the trust that developed between the two individuals at the head of government that filtered down through not just their colleagues and their fellow elected officials, but also into the senior ranks of the civil service. And it changed the way people did business. It said, we're not going back to the way we used to do things. This is about ensuring that we have equality and that we have respect in how government operates. So young people, if you take the example of education, so young people who had felt removed from the education system for many years saw this as an opportunity. They were given an opportunity that they previously didn't have in a society that had failed them. Different types of education, if you look at Irish medium education and if you look at integrated education, both of those...
But just to interrupt you for a second, Patricia MacBride, his critics would say 3 words, house and would. They'd also put that together with the year 1988. 2 British soldiers beaten, tortured, killed, left naked by the IRA. People who did that in the IRA that Martin McGuinness presumably knew, that Gerry Adams presumably knew. And nobody really bought this idea that he left the IRA in 1974.
Well, whether or not people bought the idea that Martin McGuinness left the IRA in 1974, what he did do was he led the decommissioning of IRA weapons. If it hadn't been for the moral authority that Martin McGuinness exerted during the negotiations and during the peace process, that would not have happened. It was Martin McGuinness that brought the IRA to the negotiating table to ensure that we did have a lasting peace, and that continues to be his legacy to today.
We'll have to leave it there. Patricia MacBride with your memories and thoughts on Martin McGuinness. Many thanks.